part of my background has been as a contract CIO. For about 8 years, I did interim stints or contract engagements where I would do IT assessments for lots of different companies in the industry. And one of the things that I found as a consultant is that companies don't bring consultants into places that are working optimally.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Grow IT podcast. One of your hosts here, Trey King. And today we are very excited to have our guest, Mr. Steven from Silver Linings Technologies. And we'll be diving a bit into his story as well as what his company does, and then some engaging insights into the technology industry. So make sure to stick around for this one. But without further ado, Steven, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Treg. Nice to be here.
Steven, if you don't mind, just to quickly introduce yourself and tell the listeners just a quick story of a quick snippet of your story.
Oh, sure. So Stephen Arndt with Silver Linings Technology. I'm one of those people that have been in the technology industry for my whole career.
Oh wow!
Was very adept in high school, although I thought I was going to be a creative writer. My father wanted me to go to engineering school. And in the end, after a stint in the Navy, found that the thing that I loved to do and the easiest thing to get a job at was programming. So ended up as a programmer in COBOL back in the day, and just took to it like a fish in water. Loved it, loved how systems worked. And as the PC grew and systems grew, I just was able to adopt into all of those things, whether it was networking, internet technology, messaging. I remember setting up Exchange, the very first Exchange systems, websites, that whole thing, to the point of helping develop an operational application in the post-acute healthcare industry. So did a lot of things, got to experience a lot of industries, but truthfully have been in technology and loved it my whole career.
Excellent. Tell me, Steven, how did you get into this, business sector in a way that, what was your initial interest? Even though, like you mentioned, it was obviously part of studies, but what is it about this industry that interests you so much? And what makes you so passionate about it?
Yeah, truthfully, what I love about technology, which is probably different from most of the people I interview, is not the tech, it's the
Yeah,
process change. It's the fact
that's
that it
interesting.
can enable business, it can make a dramatic impact on things if you do things right. Certainly, technology doesn't or tech doesn't always add efficiencies, but it has the potential, and if it's done right, it really does add so much efficiency to what we do. So
That's quite profound. Tell me, based on your expertise, like you said, you've been doing this for quite some time. What would you say are the current market trends, that you are aware of? What way is the wind blowing? What have you been picking up lately?
oh yeah, well, so we'll talk about business, and there's a mix of business and residential, right, or however you would want to look at it that way. But
Yep.
certainly we've seen the trend, over the last 10 years of moving from premise to the cloud.
Yeah.
I think AI, I mean, there's the potential for that, and just what we're starting to see emerge right now is mind blowing, and I think that's going to go faster than anything else we've seen, just based upon how fast technology in general improves. So I think everything that everybody says about it is absolutely correct in terms of just how earth shattering it can and will be. I'm not sure, and we're not struggling, but trying to figure out how to best leverage that. But I think it's going to be one of those things that as every organization or different organizations figure different things out, it's going to gain so much more momentum and change things really, really fast. So for my part, obviously we're like everybody else. Okay, what can we do? What should we do? How do we
Yeah.
put things in place? So
Tell me, having said that, what would you say is the current market sentiment like?
Well, I think from the client side, I think there's a lot of interest. I think everybody's curious, not sure what or how. Certainly we've seen with the Microsoft and Google platforms, there's also a little bit of fear with regards to compliance and security and privacy. So how do
Yeah.
all those things work? Interestingly enough, I'm not hearing about the AI threat in terms of the Terminator movies or things like that. Um,
Yeah.
uh, which I would think that I would expect that we'd hear a little bit more of that. And I think that's probably um, maybe too early for that sort of thing. But um, I think there's more curiosity of how do we get ahead and leverage it more so than overcoming those fears. I think I
Good
hate to
point.
say it, but I think we gave up privacy as a personal expectation a long time ago. Certainly we
Mm.
try to do it from a compliance perspective, but with Alexa in our house and cameras all over the place, I think most people recognize that um, privacy is really hard to come by.
Yes, I agree. Then usually, well, lately when I've spoken to obviously clients on our side, they, I think the word that everybody is coming up with is like cautiously optimistic, right?
Yeah,
When it comes to market sentiment, like, and then especially as to AI as well. Whereas some people obviously is very afraid of it, and other people are very much for it. Um,
I
my
think
take on it,
people I think
yeah,
people are more afraid of being left behind than they're afraid of the technology to start with.
yeah, that's a valid point you're making. I think actually deep down, I think that's actually what it's about. I agree with you. The whereas I think my take on it would be that I think AI. I agree with you. Is growing so fast at the moment, but especially that AI is not here to replace necessarily maybe jobs. I would rather say to enhance it, right? To
Mhm.
create more productivity and save more on time for that matter. But well, what I think we should do is, if you don't mind, for the listeners, tell us more about what is it that what is it that your company does.
Uh, you know, most would categorize us as a traditional managed service provider or outsourced IT company for businesses to business. I and I would hope all of your other interviewees and MSPs think that they're different and unique in some way, and I certainly do. I think my experience as a CIO, my focus on productivity and processes really help us to make a difference. We very much approach all of our customers really from that business side and process side rather
Yep.
than, oh, how many PCs you got or what's your servers or this sort of thing. And I think we really look at ourselves as what I would call IT generalist partners.
Yep.
And I try to demystify, right? A lot of companies look or position themselves as everything, that we're the IT answer for everything. And boy, that's selling a lot. I look at it
Yep.
as more like the legal department in a corporation, right? The legal department is the gatekeepers for all the legal matters that occur, but in many cases they outsource to specialists or people that need to do particular things. So
Yep.
a little example with us, we don't do web pages or SEO, but we know lots of people that do, and they do it better and cheaper than my staff that only has a general knowledge. But for our clients, we can manage those things much better than they can, and so we partner to do those sorts of things. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, no, it does definitely. I'm thinking now if you can possibly provide us like with a bit of a, I don't want to say like a full case study, but just like an idea where your value has made a big difference, towards with the other company in the past, specifically relating to what you guys do.
Yeah, so I think fundamentally our value is from this mindset of we are the IT department. And so we
Okay.
approach things from, okay, if it's my company, right, where do I want to spend my money or not spend my money
Yeah. Yeah.
versus again, many of your vendors that come in and are trying to maximize the sale. And I'd rather go in and go, well, there's a lot of security stuff out there, and there's this risk sliding graph of risk, right? How much risk tolerance do you have, and how much do you need? What's your industry like? And yeah, I don't want to sell Fort Knox security to somebody that maybe has one retail outlet and doesn't need it, has no social media presence, lots of different things. So our true value is synthesizing and assessing technology and business requirements, and finding that gap, but also educating, just like I would the board or the rest of the leadership in a company. When I was the CIO, I have to educate you guys on why this is important versus some other course of action.
Yep. Talking about the industries, are they like, more specific industries that you guys as a company focus on?
Yeah, so historically and traditionally, we focus in the healthcare and subsector of that called post-acute healthcare.
Yeah.
And I say we focus on that. That's been my background in terms of employment. So I know lots of folks in that industry. So, any company does a better job of marketing to niche industries. So that's one of our core industries. And I feel super confident there. As an IT professional, I certainly feel like we can add value in any industry because there's more things that are alike or dissimilar. However, a few years back, we had the opportunity to get involved with a cannabis manufacturer in Portland.
Yeah.
And that was my first time effectively getting into that industry. And for a person, part of my background has been as a contract CIO for about 8 years. I did interim stints or contract engagements where I would do IT assessments for lots of different companies in the industry. And one of the things that I found as a consultant is that companies don't bring consultants into places that are working optimally. They're bringing them in to fix something or to stand in the gap between two events.
Yeah.
And I found that I really like that. And again, this kind of goes back to that process. I love to get dropped into it, look at the process and the efficiencies and go, oh, we need to fix this, we need to do this, and checklist, as opposed to very valuable maintenance kind of CIO or IT leader that's keeping things on and just kind of looking at things to see what may change, but really keeping things running optimally. I'm the guy that likes the change and wants to dramatically affect things. So I say that to go back to cannabis, because when I got dropped in there, number one, it was a fun experience, but then I start looking around at the industry and I'm going, holy moly, this is
Yeah.
great. Every state's different. The requirements, the compliance, everything is different.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I've got all of this that we've got to contend with. And then I've got all of these entrepreneurs, and most of them have never been in business, have no idea what to do or what's at risk or businesses like, versus a mature industry, right? Where there's a pretty known issue.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting is that now I've got effectively agriculture, grows. I've got retail or distribution, retail. I've got delivery service, manufacturing, now beverages, brands. I mean, there's so much effectively that industry touches.
I never thought about that. You're quite right. I never thought
Yeah,
about that.
so we made a conscious decision to get into that industry. There's not a ton of dedicated IT service providers there, but also again, it's fascinating what's going on there, and the IT, the problem to be solved is much more interesting to me than some of the traditional environments.
Environments. I would like to get your opinion on, maybe if we can just look at business from a holistic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? What kind of mindset would you say is needed to be a successful founder in a business?
Oh, let's see. Well, I think so this is the second company I did, and the first one would say failed. and the reason I say one would say is, fortunately, I just spent a lot of money and was able to leverage that business for a job for the employees that I hired. So I made a lot of mistakes with that.
Yeah.
So the things that I've learned is this: you got to pay attention to the numbers day in and day out. You've got to be financially viable as a business. But probably the biggest trait or the most important thing is your ability to accept risk almost continually.
Yeah, that's quite valid.
It's simple things to me, like I get the credit card bill and I go, holy crap, I've got this much that I have to pay this every month. And I hope that never becomes a oh my God, not an oh my gosh to me, because that keeps it real. And yet the willingness to do that versus so many other people that, that concept of risk, or, oh my gosh, my world could blow up in 3 months or 6 months if I, you don't
Yes.
have that kind of insecurity typically as an employee. Although I think that's a bad thing, because I think the concept of permanent employment has gone long ago. So I think a person, even if you're an employee, need to manage your career. But as
Yeah.
a business owner, you got to accept risk and take chances and differentiate.
You've mentioned, Stephen, that you've obviously you've been at this for quite some time now. What are some of the most important things that you've learned in your career? If you don't mind to mention one or two. Let's say for those young entrepreneurs wanting to enter the market and start to make a name for themselves. Are there some golden nuggets you can give them?
Well, you will never know enough or as much as you want to know. And so sometimes you just got to pull the trigger. One of the things that I tell my employees, my kids, everything is, you just got to put things on the calendar and do them. So doesn't mean you don't think about it and plan for it. Obviously do as much as that, but if you don't put it on the calendar and do it, you're always going to be waiting. So that's probably number one. I think number two is you actually are in full control of your destiny in terms of your life work balance, how you want to treat people, how you want to be regarded. And people that feel like they're a victim, bad circumstances happen, crazy things happen. But what you do with it, how you pick yourself up, and where you go from there is just as important as the day-to-day stuff and getting
Day-to-day stuff as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Stephen, tell me, where can the listeners get hold of you guys?
They can find us at silverliningstechnology.com, cannabistechnologypartners.com. So those are the websites. I'm on X at CIO Steve. I know we've got some Facebook pages. You'll have to look up Silver Linings or Cannabis Technology Partners. So all of the socials were there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for hopping on today. This was very enlightening, and I think there's a couple of guys that made some notes on this one. So thank you for the contribution and good insight. This was fun. Thank you.
Great. No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Trey.
All the best. Take care.